running meetings. Our in-person meetings were, for the yaks, they were half an hour during lunch. And then for the yachts, our meetings took place for 75 minutes after school. Then some things we found important for the in-person meetings were those organic connections that were formed just about those 5 minutes as before we start our business work. And then seeing faces really just helped form those organic connections and overall were extremely useful. And group work also went a lot smoother but just because we have those connections that we can just talk, seeing people face to face, we all know how that goes, just because we can talk with everyone. And we were also able to utilize the tactile and sticky notes, posters, and events when we were in person. And then now that we were online, we weren't able to utilize those as much.
And just real quick, Lauren, it looks like our virtual meeting slide disappeared for some reason. So if you wanted to talk a little bit about how our virtual meetings were a little different, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'd noticed.
I can fill it in if you need help.
Okay. So for our virtual meetings, they looked a lot different. All the yaks met for 1 hour over either Zoom or Google Meets. And it also just allowed us a lot more flexibility with meeting times because the yaks did have 1 hour to meet every week compared to half an hour. And some of the yaks even opted to have an extra meeting somewhere in their schedule, either an extra meeting weekly or monthly, just to get to know the people in the yaks, which was extremely helpful because we don't have those natural connections. That 1 hour of extra meeting time where we would play a game or watch a movie, sometimes we would get snacks, just allowed us more time to connect with the other members in the yak, which just naturally made meetings flow so much smoother. Then for online meetings, we also had the opportunity to take breaks during those like spring breaks, winter break, or like our fall break. But sometimes we opted to not take those breaks because since it was over Zoom, we could meet from anywhere in the world, or throughout the United States like we are right now, and we didn't have to be in person. And we also got to utilize all those things like Zoom and Canva and use those to our benefits. And it also made connecting with other yaks a lot easier since it would be so easier for my yak and a yak from all the way across Portland. Portland's a pretty big city. So like my yak and a yak that's a 30-45 minute drive away to connect over Zoom and just discuss ideas. Then some things that worked in our online meetings and that didn't were the Google Docs, Instagram messaging, Remind, Zoom, Canva, all those tools we utilize. And then connecting with, like I already mentioned, connecting with other yaks was so much easier because we could just set up a Zoom meeting and meet whenever we would like. And you could send out a doodle poll to just find out times that works best for everyone and choose the one that's most convenient. And then working with those connected to the school and the community, like the student health center staff, was just so much easier because we can just easily meet over Zoom and there's no need to find a location and finding a time. Since it's COVID times, no one had, like for me, like I was done with school by like noon usually, and just I had that much extra time to meet. And then a couple things we tried that didn't work so well were Trello and Discord. And then connecting with other schools, clubs, and staff was sometimes difficult just because people don't respond to their emails. And we were all caught up in COVID times with our other busy work.
How did yaks benefit the community, school, and youth? We provide communities with health resources, and we give back to the community by making cards and donating to PAIR. We promote the student health center resources to the community. We also had youth representation at conferences and panels. Youth connecting. So we connected youth to student health centers and information and provided information regarding health resources, such as like birth control, like all those things that you'll find at like in your student health centers. And also benefited us as youth. Yak also helped us make a social connection, especially during COVID, helped us helped us on our leadership skills and teamwork, network of support, and gaining knowledge on health related topics. Schools. Yak built connection to youth and the student-based health center. Yak connects data that schools can use to make healthier choices and better choices for everyone in the school. We invite guest speakers on different topics that schools and students could attend to gain knowledge and to have a fun time. We also gain knowledge on health-related topics. Making time count during COVID. So these are a few pictures of like our yaks. The one in the middle is right here, Jefferson Yak. And these other poses are yak talks. We had a lot of fun doing our yak talks. I think we had like 4 yak talks this year, and it was we all got really creative, and we all like did a lot of research and put like a lot into these yak talks, and they all came out really good. We've done a lot. So we've done a lot of projects, including summits, retreats, and yak talks. We also created things like videos, flyers, bingo. We also did like service, like events and cards, baking, and other things. And also the YPAR Youth Participatory Action Research Training for yacht members. Nicole, can you talk more about this?
Yes, thanks, Erica. And I just will jump in just because Erica wasn't part of all the YACs that did participatory action research. So David Douglas was one of the high schools. They have an infographic here about distance learning and how it's affected students. So they were able to survey the students and made that infographic that they shared with the school. Erica's YAC, Jefferson, they did interviews with some members of the LGBTQ plus community, just to talk more about health and being LGBTQ plus. And then if you can go to the next slide. Centennial YAC, they actually were able to survey 400 students at Centennial High School about mental health in school. And so they got some really great data from that, and also created an infographic about that. And some of the main findings from that survey was that the LGBTQ plus community is the most stressed out and suffers the most from mental health issues this last year. Compared to any other demographics. And we also noted though too, the survey was done right before they headed into hybrid. So they were all still doing distance learning. Yeah, a lot of the students said that they weren't aware of mental health resources, and that there was also half of the students said that they did have a staff member that they could go to about their problems. So that's just some of the data that was gathered there during this school year. Next slide.
Discussion breakout rooms. So we're all going to go inside breakout rooms and share what you did in your yak or something you liked about other yaks, or you can even talk about our yak talks or the summits or the retreats.
So really quickly, I'm going to put in a link to a Jamboard. So everyone will have access to this Jamboard and be able to put in your notes for your group. And then it has the discussion questions on the first page. You can go to the next slide as well, please. So those are the discussion questions for this room. So this is more for you to talk about what your yaks have done. Or if you're not in yaks, other clubs that you're a part of, this is another time for you to talk about those, and then we'll share them out afterwards. So jump into the Jamboard. The discussion questions are there. And again, just you'll find a slide with a group number on it, and that's where you can keep notes as well.
So can someone from group 1 unmute themselves and share, please? It could be something on these slides, or you could just share something that came up your mind right now. Or you could drop it in the chat as well.
So for ours, we spent a lot of time talking about like what to do and like how to really like form like these sessions, and like because me and then another person were like brand new and we're trying to like start one in our like local area, and so they were like giving advice on ways to like what to do, ways to form it, ideas. They were just giving us ideas and like helping us like and stuff like that. That's what we spent most of the time talking about.
Mm-hmm. Are you guys like planning to like make a yak, or did I get that right?
So for me, I wanted to start like a small one in my school is what I'm trying to do.
What do you go to?
So I'm from Indiana and I go to Carroll High School.
Okay. That's good to hear.
Yeah, and then I was from group 1 as well, and I kind of jumped in a little late, but I'm from Klamath Falls, Oregon, and I work for a clinic that's kind of half public health, half patient care. And so we have a school-based health center as well, and I'm trying to start a yak through our school-based health center.
That's good to hear. Can someone from group two share?
I can. So we kind of discussed like keeping from the virtual world, just being able to connect with others like from everywhere, because it allows like Zoom and stuff allows you to have meetings like this one. And then the tools this year, one that I put on there was Menti, which I don't know if like anyone is familiar with that, but basically like you're able to interact with the audience and like ask questions using different types of answers. And so I think that's a really cool tool because you're able to engage with other people and just kind of like see how your presentation is going. I didn't put anything on that one. And then projects and going back to in person, like being able to have the flexibility of like if someone is sick, being able to have a presentation still, or like have a meeting, or just even like meeting with people that are across the country, like you're able to do that through Zoom. If anyone else in my group wants to add to any of those, feel free.
No, I think that was great, Brooklyn. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Group 3. Well, I was in group 3, so for this year, what our yak accomplished, we worked on a yak talk. We were working on our second one, but unfortunately we didn't get to finish the second one because summer came and no one wanted to do anything for summer. But our first one, it was our racism in the healthcare system workshop, yak talk. And a lot of people came to it, so I would say it was really successful for us, and we worked really hard. We think we like spent like 3 weeks planning it and working on it, and yeah, it came out really good. Does anyone from my group want to share?
Yeah, I could share. I think one thing that I really noticed during COVID with like even the different groups that I worked on is that everyone had to find solutions in terms of like not being able to do things in person and trying to make things more interactive. And I think even if we were going to go back to an in-person, it'd be really nice to be able to like use that same creative mind and like making new things and being more interactive rather than just like going back to sort of what we previously had. So I think that's one thing I definitely would want to keep going forward.
Yeah, I agree. Can group 4 share?
Hi, I was in group 4. I can share. So what we want to keep from the virtual world is to be able to have the ability to meet with others that are far away from you. Whether that's like an hour drive or even like some um across the state. I think everybody would want that, honestly. I feel like that's a gift that's been given to us in secret. Another one we have down here is, oh yeah, the same thing, the flexibility with virtual and in-person meetings. Having that ability to meet with other people. Even though you can't meet with people face to face, at least you're seeing them either over a screen or at least being able to communicate besides having a phone to your ear um, for an hour or so. Tools we use Google. Looks like we all use Google, Zoom, iCal. I'm not too familiar with iCal and Notion. Um, but we also have WebEx and Teams, which is from Microsoft, and looks like Google Docs and Gmail again. So the accomplishments that we had this year were to be able to give trainings and attend some trainings with a lot of people, which is kind of hard to do, especially in an in-person setting. And we were also able to prepare another year of virtual Be the Change and do a lot of fun projects. Another one we have is we did a nicotine versus nature workshop and transition back to in-person. What we have for this one is we will start hosting meetings in person. I put this one, my organization has already started slowly but surely, and having those who work remote join in on a call with us for the people who are already in the same room together. So that's what we have for group 4.
Thank you for sharing. Someone from group 5.
I was in group 5 and we talked about in the virtual world, it's like very easy and everyone has access to it. So people don't have to like fear like missing out on something if like their parents will let them go. So everyone can like connect pretty easily. Some of the tools that we liked were like Pear Deck, Zoom, and Canva. Like we even talked about how on like Zoom, we were like a part of like these cool like movie nights. So everyone can like watch a movie and someone like presents like the movie on their screen. In our yaks, we were some of the things that we accomplished are like fundraisers. Like in my fundraiser, like we like raised money in our school district. It's kind of hard to accomplish things like online or hybrid because like it's not very much like hands-on. And then going back in person, we think it's going to be much easier to collaborate, and it's very easier to have like more in-person activities and events, so everyone can kind of like have like that face-to-face contact.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing. And that's all. No more groups. Thank you. Thank you everyone for sharing, and thank you for everyone that wrote on their Jamboard. Does anyone have any questions?
And this is questions too. If you have questions now about like, some people were saying how like they're starting a yak yat, this would be a nice time too to ask us any questions about that kind of stuff. How do you start one? What does it look like? Any suggestions? And then this is everyone from this group can answer questions because everybody has like some knowledge.
I have a question. What is a yak? And like, how do you start one, I guess?
Sorry, go ahead.
I can try to answer this to my best of my abilities, but YAC stands for Youth Action Council, and it's essentially just a group of teens from typically a high school, or all Multnomah County's YACs are based in high schools that have student-based health centers. And it's just like groups of teens and we all collaborate to work on projects surrounding like health issues that involve teens, and we can share information with the student based health center. But honestly, I don't think you necessarily need a student based health center to create a YAC, although it may be beneficial to have them together. They're not mutually exclusive. Then to start a YAC, I feel like the best way that I would go about it is find an adult facilitator, someone who is passionate about the same issues that you are, that can kind of help advise you on what decisions to make, or like an adult facilitator could be a teacher or just an adult in the community that's passionate about helping teens and educating them of their like on public health issues. And then just speaking with whoever helps create the clubs. Like my school has one specific person that helps make all the clubs for my high school, and talking to them about like the best ways to go about it, and then coming up with projects for you to do surrounding public health issues. Hope that answers your question. If there's any other things you would like me to add, let me know.
And other folks who have started YACs, this would be a good time too to like add anything that's helpful for you.
And I'm, so like I said, trying to get a YAC started. And I think the thing that I'm running into the most is just like how to reach out to the certain age group. So like my age group, I'm targeting like 13 to 18-year-olds. So of course I'm like talking specifically to like teachers and seeing if like health occupations clubs would be interested first and foremost. But even reaching kids who aren't in current clubs but might be interested, like, would you recommend maybe starting with like some sort of like Zoom informational meeting, so you know it's not too intimidating in person, and then going to in person? I think that's where I'm just like a little stuck.
One thing that I would highly recommend to get like to reach out to everyone is, this is how I actually got into YAC, is my health teacher. I would make like a Canva flyer, or this is like what my high school's YAC did, is they made a Canva flyer and they just sent it out to everyone that might be interested in joining a YAC or could spread on the information. So I saw this in a couple different places, but the place I saw it first was with my health teacher, and she was just like, hey, this is a cool club. If this is something you're interested in, email this person and just communicate with them to try to go to a meeting.
I would say an info session is good too, as someone who facilitates YACs, just to kind of give people interest, but also just showing that that you intend to have momentum, and that they're like, that they're not just showing up to meetings just to come to meetings, that there's actually projects that'll get accomplished in some way, I think is really nice. Obviously, if you are able to meet in person, always bring food. Always bring food.
Yeah, I think definitely we were going to do something with food. And I was even thinking about drafting like a timeline, so that maybe people can see like a physical, like a tangible piece of evidence that we're going to be working on specific projects at specific times, rather than just saying, yeah, we're going to do public health stuff. But I wasn't sure if that was the best idea.
I like the idea. I feel like if you give someone like a preview on what you're gonna do, people will like look at it and be like, oh, I'm really interested in join. And when Nicole said always bring food, I feel like food always attracts people. Like for Aryak, like my facilitator, her name is Molly, she would always like ask people to join. She would set up a table and she would bring all these stuff, like she would bring like all these resources and all these flyers, like, and she would bring, sometimes she would even bring like the nurses from our student-based health centers, and people would just come and they would like look at our stuff, and she would tell them, oh, come to our next meeting, we have food, and it always gets people, like our next meeting, people always come. So that's a really good idea.
And then for your timeline idea, the only problem that I could see with that is with my YAC, we are always pushing back deadlines, and like it's really hard to estimate how long every single project's going to take, because some projects you just get way more into than others, and they end up taking like twice the time, if that makes sense. So as like an alternative, what I think could possibly be a good idea is just make a list of like projects you are planning on doing for that school year.
Yeah,
And just
that's a great idea.
and just like
Yeah.
stick to your word and like kind of plan them out, but not necessarily like a strict timeline.
Yeah, that's true. Because if it doesn't work out the way that it's planned, you know, it might make them think that you're not the best leader. I can see that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for the questions, everyone. It is 3:28. It looks like, did you guys have another slide? Do you want to plug your social media or anything?
Yeah, totally. Follow us on Instagram. It's our Student Health Center. We also have a webpage. So if you, as people who are starting Yaks and Yachts, I personally have been doing this work for 4 years. And then Lauren and Erica are, of course, experts in the youth side of things, but we also have other amazing students. They're just two of many awesome students that are in Yak Yachts. Would be happy to help out if you all need any more information or anything like that. And then we'll of course follow you back too if you have a Instagram that you all want, so that we can see what you all are doing and yeah, maybe collaborate at some point in the future.